it's hard for me not to buy in for Alabama to be a national title contender to win the whole thing. I have them as my number 2 in the upcoming preseason top 25. So you may ask yourself, well, Tegan, you don't feel good about Ohio State. They have those 2 incredible players. What programs do you think could win a national championship in the 2025 season? Well, that's our second topic today. I apologize. We're going to do the topic of who could potentially win the national championship. I got about 5 programs. 5 programs I believe are going to potentially win the national championship this year. If it's not any of these 5 programs, I would be shocked. That's no discredit to any team that doesn't get mentioned here, but we have 5 specific programs that I believe could win the whole thing. First one is Clemson. If you do not follow me on Twitter, if you don't follow any of my socials, Clemson is my number 1 team going into this season. And that's for a couple of reasons. I think one of the trends that we have seen with the college football playoff is when we get to the NFL draft, the team that has the most players drafted ends up winning the national championship. It's been pretty consistent. Now, I know it could be a flawed logic of, well, they're going to have the most eyes on them. They're going to be in the biggest game. They're going to have more opportunities than most teams to get that many players. But I also think there's some merit to it. And when you go look at Clemson, do they match up with the depth of a Texas, the depth of an Alabama, even maybe an Ohio State? Probably not, because Clemson doesn't lean into the portal as much as they probably should. But this year's a little bit different because somehow, some way, Dabo Swinney has gotten some really talented players from the portal this year that just kicks their ceiling a little bit higher than usual. But what makes them really enticing is at 3 levels of their defense, defensive line, linebacker, and secondary, they have All-Americans. They have multiple All-Americans specifically in their defensive line. Then we flip to the offensive side of the ball. Sure, they're losing Phil Maffa, who I've interviewed. Great guy, great running back. But the star of the show is going to be Cade Klubnik in this wide receiver room. And one of the most notable stories with Clemson is the resurgence of the wide receiver for this program. Let's not forget how dynamic they were at wide receiver for such a long time. They were one of the best programs in pumping out wide receivers during the 2010s. It was remarkable. And then they started to falter a little bit. They started to go to the wayside and not be as dynamic. And now they have guys like Bryant Westco, who I think are really damn good. As you just look through the entire program, they have continuity and they have NFL talent everywhere. I think it would be crazy to say that they can't win a national championship, especially knowing they're in the ACC. Knowing that they have a very easy schedule in front of them post LSU, sure, you have Georgia Tech, which is going to be a tough one on the road. There's some moments in the ACC, but it's not a gauntlet when we're talking about like a Big Ten SEC program. And I think they could have a very good position to get a bye going into the college football playoff. And with a veteran team like this, I think it'd be dumb not to think Clemson can't win a national championship. Alabama is a team that has just risen up my rankings so much during the offseason, especially as we've gotten closer to the start of the season. As you look for a hole on this roster or a potential weakness, you come to the realization that they have so much talent there that it's hard for me not to buy in for Alabama to be a national title contender to win the whole thing. I have them as my number 2 in the upcoming preseason top 25. You point to Ty Simpson is the first thing you're more than likely going to do. When you have a question about Alabama, you don't question the wide receivers because Ryan Williams, Horton, many others are super dynamic. The running back room, Jam Miller reportedly has an injury, but he's going to be back for the start of the season. And even then, the guys behind him are going to get some more burn in the fall camp, and I think they're really good. The offensive line could be the best in the country. Their offensive line has NFL talent littered across the board. Caden Proctor, I'm going to be very light when I say this, has the ceiling and capabilities of like a Trent Williams. Like I'm not saying he is, because Trent Williams arguably is the greatest tackle we've ever seen play the sport of football. But he has that ceiling. He has the tools and capabilities to get there. We flip to the defense, NFL talent, returning talent littered. I think it could be the best secondary in the country. There is just incredible freaks of nature in terms of talent and proven capabilities in the secondary that I think is going to be very, very good. So we go back to Ty Simpson and you come to the realization he really just has to be a point guard. And you have Ryan Grubb, who I think his schematics, I had a lot of problems with. I'll be transparent. I'm a Seahawks fan. I know about Ryan Grubb, and it was not working at the NFL level. I think he needs to adapt as a head coach in terms, or as a offensive coordinator, to adapt his running schemes for the NFL. But in college, it works. In college, what he wants to run will work. And he's also with Kalen DeBoer, a head coach that I've given a ton of grace for last season, because I think it wasn't as sunshine and rainbows as Nick Saban left it. As much as there's so much talent with this roster, I think Kalen DeBoer, and many have spoken about this, was kind of doing damage control in a sense that he couldn't really set the standard. He couldn't really set what he wanted with the fear that he was going to lose some talent. And I think he really made the most of what he could. Last year, we saw the ceiling of beating Georgia. But with the volatility of a guy like Jalen Milroe, you were doomed for an Oklahoma incident. And they were still knocking on the door of a college football playoff spot. And I understand people are a little bit sour on him solely for what we saw with Michigan in the bowl game, which is rightful in the sense of you had another Oklahoma incident with Jalen Milroe in terms of inconsistency. I just think Ty Simpson, though he has not played a ton of football, he's going to at least be consistent. I don't need him to be dynamic. I don't need him to reach a crazy ceiling where this team is going to be driven by the quarterback position. I need this team to control the football and just get the ball into those playmakers' hands. I think of Horton, Williams, and others. Hale as well. Another team I want to mention is Penn State. I think Penn State, pretty straightforward. You're bringing back two dynamic running backs, Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, Drew Aller. The question for them is the wide receivers. If Penn State can get production out of the wide receiver room, they're a definitive national championship contender. There's no way around it. You can point to Drew Aller, but I just think he has needed so much support with these wide receivers. Early returns from fall camp, it looks like, and it sounds like it's going to work out potentially. They have a favorable schedule once again in the Big Ten. I mean, the notion that James Franklin, it's pretty simple. When they're favored, he's going to win the game. When they're not favored, that's where it gets real risky. That's where you get real concerned. The defense, I'm not going to have any problems. Yeah, they're losing guys like Abdul Carter, some safeties, Kevin Winston. I think they're going to be pretty damn good on the defensive side of the ball, especially now that they have Jim Knowles, a national championship winning defensive coordinator. Texas, straightforward. If Arch Manning works like we think he's going to work, national championship contender, Texas. They're the preseason number one by the AP and coaches poll. I have questions about their offensive line, but it's easy to buy into Texas. It's easy to buy into the fact that they have one of the most talented rosters. In terms of talent acquisition, I think they're second to no one. Texas is a well-oiled machine. Sark is due for a national championship appearance. Not even a win, just an appearance. And I think they're going to have 2 years of Arch Manning to do it. They have an incredible wide receiver room, incredible running backs, one of the best defenses in the country. It's easy to say Texas. The last one I do want to mention before we move off of the teams, because we're going to talk coaches next. LSU is one that I am taking a flyer on. LSU is a team that I think could win a national championship this season. A lot of people are going to push back on that. What concerns me really is Nussmeier and this recent injury that could linger throughout the season. But outside of that, I believe in Blake Baker. I believe in this defense. I believe that LSU takes a leap on the defensive side of the ball, something that we have not seen in a while. And what we really specifically haven't seen is great defensive back play. Stamps at corner, I think, is going to be a star. I think their front seven has depth and quality. The biggest thing is Harold Perkins at the star position, something that LSU fans have been clamoring for so long. And I understand he's coming off a torn ACL. I think he's finally going to find the position that is best suited for his skill set, and that skill set can wreck games. Harold Perkins could be a game wrecker again, like we remember what he was doing against Arkansas, where he was racking up sacks. He was just changing the game on the defensive side of the ball. I think him going to the star position makes all the world of a difference. And on the offensive side of the ball, as long as that offensive line, I've heard the concerns in fall camp, it's getting less and less confident that I think LSU could win the SEC or even a national championship. But I'm sticking to my guns, and I believe that the transfers that they've brought in aren't going to be the end-all be-all for this team, but they're going to be the icing on the cake of a potential national championship run. I'm one to say that Brian Kelly is not some overhyped, overrated head coach. There's a lot of nuance and context for the past couple of seasons that I think people refuse to acknowledge. But LSU does have to show me a lot. That's the largest road to getting a national championship compared to the 4 others that we're just talking about.